Mr. Jide Ojo with us today. Jide Ojo is a public affairs analyst, a columnist, an author, and also the executive director of OJO Development Consult. Thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So, to begin with, talking about the presidential elections and the tribunal issue, you'd recall that over 300 billion was spent on the presidential elections. And now some political parties are asking for a rerun, which means if this request is granted, INEC may be using another maybe 305 billion, it could be less than, it could be more than, for the elections. Now, what do you have to say about this?
For me, whatever anybody is saying about the 2023 general election, or particularly the presidential election, is premature. It's premature to the extent that the aggrieved parties have subscribed to election dispute resolution. They filed petition in court. And as you know, this week, from Monday 7th, um, from Monday this week, we've had the tribunal entertaining in a pre-hearing of the petitions of the presidential candidates who are contending the outcome of that election. So it's in the place of the judiciary to pronounce one way or the other, and if in its own wisdom it's asking INEC to carry out a rerun, then it has to be done, irrespective of whether we have the money or not. But permit me to say that the entire sum spent on 2023 election is not even 300 billion. It's 478 billion. Because in 2022 budget, INEC received a sum of 305 billion. And in the 2023 budget, it received additional 176 billion naira.
I want to take this question again because I'm particular about that money. If um, maybe the judiciary said, okay, go ahead, do a rerun, and INEC wants to actually do a rerun, what impact will it have on the economy? Talking about the Nigeria economy, we know how it is now. What impact will it have on the economy?
First and foremost, again, I say it is presumptuous for anybody to say there should be a rerun. That is just one out of about 4 different scenarios that can happen with the judicial review that is ongoing. One, the court can affirm the election. Two, the court can ask for a rerun. Three, the court can declare someone else as the winner of that election. And so, when you have all of these scenarios that are likely, why are people asking for rerun? I've had the article come saying, I won. Atiku said he won. Tito B said he won. They didn't say, it was initially Julius Abure, who was the national chairman of Labour Party, said they should cancel the election.
Yes, it should be nullified or there should be a rerun.
So, the issue of rerun, I don't know where that is coming from, but what I have had, what I have read from the media report on the election petition tribunal is that Peter Obi is claiming that he won, and Atiku Abubakar is also claiming that he won. So if they said they won, it is for the judiciary to say, okay, bring evidences if you have proven. And election petition is sui generis, it's in a world of its own. And he who alleges must prove. If you claim that INEC rigged you out, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt, because it's a criminal allegation. Proving beyond reasonable doubt is not a tip party. It's not something that is very easy to do. So people should lower their expectation that there will be a rerun. Recall in 2007 presidential election, which was declared as the worst election in the history of Nigeria. What did this judiciary do? The Supreme Court, in a split decision, 4-3, 4 upheld the election, 3 disagreed that the election was okay. But victory was confirmed. So we have that history behind us. And I just don't want to join issues with those who are asking for rerun. Irrespective of the amount that is involved, that one is secondary. If there has to be a rerun, there has to be a rerun. But The most important question at this point is not whether there will be a rerun. The point is, can the opposition element prove beyond reasonable doubt that the election was rigged against them?
And what if they can't?
If they can't, then the court will affirm Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the winner. Because Section 135, and I need to avert the minds of those viewers to it. Section 135 of the Electoral Act, Section 135 sub 1, says that election will not be nullified on the basis of substantial compliance. So what that means, and that's paraphrasing that section, it means that if there is substantial compliance, the election will not be nullified. It is only where you could prove substantial non-compliance. In the event that maybe you can prove that there is widespread rigging, there is widespread violence, there is overvoting, and you know you are dealing with 176,846 polling units. How can you prove all of that in 180
We
days?
have beavers. They could prove it. They could.
They could does not mean they will. Possibility is not the same thing as certainty. So let's not dwell too much, because this issue is sub judice. It's before the court. Let the court make it. And don't forget, look at Osun State Election Dispute Resolution. The court of first instance declared Oyetola as the winner of that election. But on appeal, Oweleketv won, both at the Court of Appeal and at the Supreme Court. The same thing can happen. Even if the Court of Appeal say the election was not.
Well, the Supreme Court said that's because of lack of merit.
That's what I'm telling you. I'm only advancing your mind to different scenarios that can play out. And that's why I'm referencing that even if the Court of Appeal said, oh, this election is nullified, there is still an appellate court, which is the Supreme Court, which has the final say. And you need to also, you see, Rachel, you see that the camp of the petitioner and the respondent at the pre-hearing, they were asking for short adjournment.
Yes.
What do you think they were asking the short adjournment? They were studying the Supreme Court decision in Osun State, because it has to do with beavers. You get? So they had that for that 1 week. They said they want to use to exchange documents and all of that. But it's practically to also study what the Supreme Court say, because the Supreme Court pronouncement on that election has become locus classicus, in which case it becomes a reference point. So they will look in their petition, how did the Supreme Court, which is the final court there, how did they resolve the issue in Osun? Because the issue in Osun has to do with 744 polling units where they claim there was overvoting. And the Supreme Court has ruled that before you can prove overvoting, 3 things must be present: the beavers, the ECAT form, and then the voters register. So you cannot rely only on beavers. You have to also look at the ECAT form. You also have to look at the voters register. So I'm saying this issue is sub judice. Let's not jump the gun. Let's not get the country into a frenzy that, because some people, they will always, in my column in the Punch newspaper this week, I did allude, and I expatiated on the election dispute resolution procedures in this country. And I tell you, it's a very technical process. So I'm not very concerned whether the election will be nullified or not. I'm only going to stay the course to say, let due process be followed, and let substantial justice be done. Because those who are alleging fraud, there are 3 elections that were held simultaneously. In some of the states where there was offset, they were not alleging fraud. In the election that was held, 3 elections held simultaneously. So where you won, it was fair. Where the other person won, you were rigged. I don't know, but it's not in my place as a citizen to say this is. We have subjected the aggrieved parties have subjected themselves to election dispute resolution processes, which is the best. because it's better than calling out your supporters on street protests or having the scenario that played out in US where people invaded the Congress, or the situation that played out in Brazil where people invaded the Supreme Court, invaded the presidential palace, invaded the Brazil's parliament. So we don't want that. So let the court, and they have 6 months. Court of Appeal has 6 months. So you need to bear that in mind.
So let's leave the courts to decide that. Let's touch on another issue now, the fuel subsidy removal issue. Now, the Buhari administration wants to remove fuel subsidy before leaving office. And the question is, can fuel subsidy removal, stop the issue of the perennial fuel scarcity we have in Nigeria today?
My optimism about whether fuel subsidy removal will stop fuel scarcity, um, I'm not very enthusiastic about that. I'm not even very enthusiastic about Dangote refinery coming on later this month on May 22. They
Yeah.
said it is going to be commissioned. The reason being this: you remove fuel subsidy, fine, you have money to uh, possibly run government. We are looking at 7 trillions of naira that are being deployed to fuel scarcity,
Yeah.
and the fuel scarcity removal is long overdue. In my own estimation, it is long overdue to the extent that you cannot have a subsidy on one product, just one product, out of the several petroleum products. You cannot be spending the same amount or close to the same amount as you spend on your capital expenditure to subsidize just one product. There is practically no money to run government, and all the people that will take over the reins of power on May 29, many of them will get to their offices and see that there is empty treasury. So how do you run government? Workers are demanding for a pay rise. Um, Everybody wants a better cut of the national cake. But the point for me is, yes, removing fuel subsidy may will provide resources to run government. But if care is not taken, it may not resolve fuel scarcity. Because the problem we now have is that products are supposed to be taken through pipelines. Now, these pipelines have been largely vandalized, and we have resorted to trucking. So, for the products we consume in Abuja, they are brought in from Lagos. The rains are here. We knew what happened last year, where at some point, trucks could not pass Lokoja Bridge because of flooding. So, where do we go from here? Have we been able to fix the problem of vandalism of the pipeline? Because even now that Dangote is coming on stream, Dangote does not have its refinery in Abuja. So they will still buy from him in Lekki free export zone and free trade zone rather. And then you still truck it from there. So the gains will be likely that we will no longer import. So we are not going to import, but we will still face the problem of trucking. So my own issue about fuel availability would be that we need to have price differentials in the cost of PMS. You cannot have a uniform amount. You cannot sell the product at uniform amount across the country. Because if I'm traveling to Lagos from Abuja and somebody is traveling from Akure to Lagos, we will both not pay the same amount for transport. So why will, if you want to deregulate, food deregulation, remove the fuel subsidy, then allow market forces to determine the price. Not that you now, NFPCL will still say, oh, don't sell beyond 200 naira per liter. No, you can't do that in a deregulated economy. You have to allow people in Lagos to have it cheaper because it's in their backyard, that they just take the product from either Apapa or from Lekki, and then they distribute.
So you're saying different states should have different prices?
I'm not saying the market forces will determine what is because when you remove subsidy, you are saying that independent major marketers should charge for cost recovery prices, and cost recovery prices cannot be uniform. You cannot expect me to send an articulated vehicle to Lagos to bring the product to Makurdi or to bring the product to Maiduguri, and then you say that don't sell beyond 180 naira per litre, or don't sell beyond 200 naira per litre. That should be left for market forces to determine. Because here, unlike telecommunication, where you don't need to physically transport airtime from one place to the other. In this respect, we are talking of physical transportation of refined petroleum products from one point to another. So it has to be holistic. That's the point I'm making, Rachel.
Okay.
It has to be holistic. You remove fuel subsidy. I've advocated for that long before now. There is no two way about it. There will be price of PMS will go up. Price of kerosene today is about 1,000 naira per litre, isn't it? That of diesel is about 800 naira per litre. That of aviation fuel is about 800 naira per litre. So you cannot, at the same time that you deregulate, you now want to cap the amount that independent and major marketers should sell their products, and that you want to enforce that they do not sell beyond. I was in Maiduguri last year, and my friend in Maiduguri told me, Jide, for us here, we are only bothered about availability. We've been buying PMS for 300, 350, and we are okay with it. Just let it be available. But that is even at a time that the NNPC is telling us the price is 175 naira per litre. So people are paying more than double, but it's not official. So the tricky thing is that Buhari cannot even remove the subsidy. It needs to leave on May 29. We have subsidy till June 30.
Yes.
For the 2023 budget. There is that provision. So even if it will be removed, the incoming administration still has about 1 month within which to deal with the issue. And mark you, President Buhari has just sent request for $800 million loan.
Yes, I was going to ask
to
that.
The Senate for approval.
Yes.
From World Bank,
Yes.
800 million World Bank loan, which is meant to serve as a buffer.
So what's your opinion on President Buhari borrowing $800 million to sponsor fuel removal subsidy? Now, he said the money is, give to poor Nigerians, 5,000 naira every month. What do you have to say about this?
For me, the $800 million should not be approved.
Why?
For the singular reason that we already have budget for social investment programs in the 2023 budget. Let us live within that means. 800 million US dollars, if you translate that, if you convert that to naira, it's in billions. And we are talking of Nigeria debt portfolio rising up to 77 trillion by June this
And
year.
the IMF is even advising Nigeria to, come down on debt.
So that's why I'm saying just 22.7 trillion ways and means was just approved last week. So you are coming for $800 million on your way out. I think we can do without that conditional cash transfer, because at the end of the day, you give these people, many 10 million people, 5,000. Does that solve their poverty status? Many of these people that are receiving 5,000 have children who give them more every month. And what you need to do is to empower them. These freebies will not work. Freebies will not work. Many of us who have aged parents, who have aged uncles, we give them more than that, and yet they still complain. I think we can do without the 800 million. Let's cut our quote according to our cloth. Explain to these rural folks and the poor people the need for us to remove the PME. Then you can have a very robust dialogue for them as part of their own sacrifice. Because we already have the social investment program, which got half a trillion every year since 2016. Let's do within that. Because you are already tying the hands and the legs of incoming administration. it gets to a point that you will not even have anybody to borrow you money. Because to service our current debt portfolio, Rachel, to service it is almost go up in as much as our capital expenditure framework, capital expenditure envelope. So if they are spending as much to service, not to pay principal sum of your debt, you should do well to lower your debt limit. And that's where I stand.
Okay, just before we go, one of the reasons Nigeria, said they went into cashless policy was to defeat kidnapping. This is one of so many reasons. Now, cash is fully back in circulation. So do we say the reason given has been defeated? That is the reason to, defeat kidnapping. Do we say it has been defeated?
For the period of 6 months or thereabouts that the redesigned currency uh, took place and the mop-up, etc., it still didn't stop kidnapping. People were still being kidnapped. And mark you, the fault and the antagonism against the redesigning of the naira was not the fault of Nigeria. It was the fault of the operators, the executors of the program, the regulatory agencies. Today, I was on, earlier in the week, I was on a business discussion where we were examining the scarcity of the new naira. Okay, you wanted to do away with the old naira by February 10th, but this is May. Even with the latitude that has been given by the Supreme Court, I don't know how much of that naira, newly redesigned naira, you have. All the naira that I have are hold me, and that's what banks are
I
giving us.
actually spoke with people on the streets some weeks ago, and they said they can't even remember when last they saw
Exactly.
the unit.
So it means that it's the system that has disappointed Nigeria, and if kidnapping is bad, it's because the security agencies have failed to do their work. Redesigning new naira will not stop kidnapping. What will stop kidnapping is when people have jobs, when people are gainfully employed, when people when the security agencies redouble and double down on insecurity with the use of technology. In other crimes, you have drones, you have CCTV that are used in tracking criminal elements. We have what is all these NECOMSAT agencies? What are we doing? They said they've collected name registration, national identification number registration of about 97 million Nigerians. Is that not helping to track? Because everybody should have a unique identity. So I feel that curbing insecurity and preventing kidnapping will not be solved by redesigning the naira alone. It can only be solved with multi-pronged approach, which has to do with employment generation, poverty alleviation, and strengthening the security agencies. We have about 17 to 21 security agencies in Nigeria. Let there be better coordination. When have you watched Nat Geo Wild?
Nigeria, yeah.
How did those animals that they treat in each of their episodes, how did they spotlight them to the point of even when they are mating,
Yes.
when they are eating, when they are running
Yes.
after a prey and all of that? It's science and technology. It's through CCTV. It's not like somebody was in the forest, risking his life trying to feed.
But do you think Nigeria has gotten to that
We
level
can get there.
technologically?
We can leapfrog ourselves. We have science and technology. We have universities of science and technology. We have research agencies funded under the Ministry of Science and Technology. Let's use them. Let's challenge them. Look, when we have COVID-19, it took just 6 months for medical scientists to come up with a vaccine. This is a serious problem. Look, I tell you, unless we infuse technology in the fight against crime, we'll get nowhere. Boots on the ground alone will not solve our security problem. You need to infuse technology. ICT is number one. ICT complemented by human capacity, well-trained capacity, forensic laboratory, the use of CCTV, the use of drones. The other time, US sent to kill the second in command to what's the name of this leader of this terrorist group? Is it Taliban or no? The one that are based in Afghanistan. No,
Is this the Bin Laden?
Al-Qaeda.
Okay.
The second in command to Al-Qaeda that was killed in either Pakistan or Afghanistan. It was an unmanned drone that they used to kill him. It was with precision. Nobody shot any single bullet at him. That is the power of technology. So the way technology has advanced, we need to challenge our own scientists. Let it be a strategic plan. All research agencies, all ICT related, NICSDA, NICONSAT, NCC, which other one, let them be challenged to develop homegrown solutions. That, university undergraduate students are doing drones, they are designing drones. Let's have them patented and encouraged to mass produce. The war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, is not being fought with cock and shoot or AK-47 or AK-49. They are using missiles, they are using drones, they are using all manner of technology to fight. And that's what we need to use to fight terrorism. So for me, it's not just about redesigning the naira. You can do that for all you care, but that will not solve your problem. What you need is coordinated effort by the Office of National Security Advisor. Make sure that there is no overlap. The outgoing administration have done well in doubling and quadrupling the number of personnel. They have motivated the police, increased the salaries of police. They have come up with Police Act 2020. A lot has been done, but there is need for consolidation. There is need for coordination. There is need for synergy. And that is when we will see the back of banditry, because our bandits are not as sophisticated as what the state can do. They are not like even as sophisticated as other criminal elements, the Al-Shabaab, the Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban. They are still at the incubation. They are people that can just stand still with AK-47 and all the other stuff, relying on charms and all of that. And the state can nip it in the bud, but it cannot just be hardware. It has to be hard and software. Software in terms of employment opportunities, poverty alleviation, education, because people need to be educated. So know that waging war against your country is not the way out. So all of these have to be coordinated, and that's why I wish the incoming administration best of luck. I don't envy whoever is taking over from Buhari and those who are taking over from the state governors, because the situation is very dark. And if care is not taken, we may move from bad to worse. But as we say in local parlance, God forbid.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jide Ojo, for your time. In his words, he said there is need for consolidation, coordination, and synergy. Well, to watch more exclusive interviews, follow us on our YouTube channel, Oweleketv. You can also follow us on all our social media handles at Oweleketv. I am Rachel Abioyi. Thank you.